So, I think one person wrote in their comments yesterday that they wanted to hear more about the research behind what we're doing. So just to kind of focus you a little bit on the theory and research here, what we did yesterday is we did the quick lists before you wrote, remember? We did those quick lists to get you brainstorming about the problems, before you shared. This is another pre-writing technique, right? Four-square brainstorming, getting students to think about it first. So they're not writing from doing a cold writing, right? What they're doing is we're creating we really love this term, thick air. You're creating thick air in the room so that students can almost pull the ideas out of the air and write. So if you were wanting to move to a writing, you could move right now to writing. You could say, now write the story of your favorite place, right? Depending on what level you're talking about. Use the words, use the ideas you have, use the details you've already come up with. You've told the story orally, we've written it down, we've even drawn a picture of it, we've told it orally. Now they could be ready to write. We're not going to do that. But you could move there right now. So this is about creating thick air. The other big idea that this is about comes from Paulo Freire. Anybody know Paulo Freire in here? Yeah? He's a Brazilian educator back in the 1970s and 80s. Brazil had a big literacy problem. A lot of people in the rural areas could not read. So what he did is he brought in a literacy program for the entire country. And that literacy program involved a really critical idea. And that was that words have to be connected to the world. That was the idea, the word and the world. A lot of what we do in education is we teach the words without the world. There's no link, there's no connection between the words in the classroom and the world of the students. So the question is, so what he would have farmers do is they would bring in pictures, they would take pictures of the farms or draw pictures of the farms, and they would start with the words in their daily life and labeling the things on the farm, and then work out from their lived experiences, rather than starting with Shakespeare and bringing it down to people, or starting with some idea of content. So what this is all about is we've read Iggy Peck, we've done some work with it, we've done Rosie Revere, but for literacy development, for writing development, for real literacy development, we need to move also to the world of the kids and who they are and what matters to them. So we're moving to the world in this afternoon workshop, from the text that we've worked with to your worlds, right? And what we call turning the text, moving from the text to your world. And that's really the energy between comprehension and creation. Comprehending and understanding the text deeply, but then creating. You can create from the text or you can create from the students' worlds. We're going to do now students' worlds. You've been doing a lot of creation with text. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about map making. So first, some resources. Map making, when we mention maps, we think of maps like this, right? This is a wonderful map. Students love maps, by the way. My kids, when we have a book, we've been reading this book with my kids. I have a 4- and 7-year-old, and we've been reading a book called The Black Rabbit. And at the beginning of the book, The Black Rabbit, there's a map of where the rabbit goes in the book, in the cover. And my kids, every time we open that book, we have to stop on that map and kind of go through the whole path. And then we start reading it. There's another map in a Lemony Snicket book where you open it up and it's a village. It's a whole map of the village. So kids love these kinds of maps. I don't know why, but they're drawn because it's a way of understanding the world visually and organizing the world, which is all that first graders want to do, is organize their worlds, right? So Never Never Land, Winnie the Pooh, right? A lot of these books, Lord of the Rings, start with this map at the beginning of the book that kids just love. Then there are great maps books like this one. I love this book. That has maps, I'll take you to where I am, Mexico, that has maps of all the countries in the world. And are your kind of more traditional maps, but with these nice diagrams. By the way, that little city on there where Cancun is? See that? Everybody see Cancun? See the big pyramid over here on the left? That's Chichen Itza, which some of you might know, one of the wonders of the world. About 2 hours from Cancun. Cancun's there on the coast. And that it's a cathedral. It's our main cathedral in the downtown. That's where I live. Not in the cathedral, but about a half hour away from the cathedral right there. And there's also Uxmal right next to. There's another pyramid. It's not actually in the water. It has a little line that points to it, which is really it's a whole Mayan city, ancient colonial city. Not a colonial, an ancient city civilization. And you can see the whole city, not just the big pyramid. Anyway, that's just for fun. Okay, Then there are books about different kinds of maps. Here's a great map book where she maps different parts of childhood. There's a map of my bedroom right up there. See the map of the bedroom on the top? So we moved into other kinds of maps, or maps of like a beach and a sort of square around the beach. There's a whole movement, and you can find it online, called hand maps. And you can type in hand maps online and get a lot of these maps on hands. You can even have your kids make maps on their hands. Look at the images and make maps on your own hand. Really kind of cool thing. Then we move into maps of neighborhoods. Here's a project in Chicago where kids map their own neighborhoods with watercolors, photographs, and text. We did a map. Here's a map that the kids did at my school, ABLA. They created sculptures all around the school related to the theme. And so each kid was a different sculpture, all scattered around the school, but they decided they needed to map it first. So this is a map of, see the students' names? Domenico's over here, and Rominia's here, and Andrea's here, and they mapped where they were going to all be in the school, and they created an experience for the people visiting the school. There's Flora again, by the way, looking at the map. Now, this is what you're going to do. So this is with a bunch of people just like you that had the same sort of prompt that you're in the materials that you're going to have. So you're going to create a map of your place, okay? And you're going to create a map of your place using watercolors and black pens. So you see this? The watercolors are in the background, and the black pen is in the foreground. Now, what kind of map you create is completely up to you. So this is one kind of map. I mean, look at it. It's kind of funky. They just decided to do it like this, but one side have the houses look like that, one side the house of the street look like that. They put themselves in the map, I think. Here's another map. I thought this story, I was in this group listening to these teachers talk. I love this story. This map, anybody know what this is? A school, yeah. And why are parts of the school blue and brown, and why is one part dynamic and colorful? Their classroom? Music room? Whoops. Yeah. You got really far, yeah. So this teacher was mapping her own experience in high school. And she said all of high school was horrible except when she was in the music room, when she was in band. And that was the only place in school for her that it kept her in school, it helped her to survive school. So she wanted to map that experience. So the colors convey the emotions in the watercolor. Here's another one. Look at the lines, really simple lines. Like there's almost hardly any drawings on that. It's really the watercolor that they were expressing themselves with. This was a really interesting, this was an African-American man in Massachusetts. And this was the farm in Georgia where his family, his ancestors were slaves. Then his family bought the farm, and now his family still owns it and lives there. And he told the story of this place, and it was so beautiful. So this is that farm in Georgia. Okay, well, we're going to do this right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a map, any kind of map you want, using watercolor and pen, okay? That's what you're going to do. You even have a little idea for it in that box. This might have given you some more ideas. All of them will look beautiful. You can't go wrong with this, and I'll show you how we're going to do it now, okay? So you're going to have this, a beautiful piece of watercolor paper. Now, you don't need this paper with kids. It's a little more expensive. You can use copy paper if you need to. And these are just a cheap set of $2 watercolors, right? The better watercolors, spending more money on watercolors doesn't do a lot for you. These are really, really good to use. These are just the $2 ones on Amazon. So let's talk about watercolors before you start, okay? We have different size brushes. Some are big, some are small. Big brushes are when you want to cover a lot of area. Small brushes are for the details. You have these black pens that they gave you, these gel pens, okay? Because we're going to do this in an exhibit, we're going to put them all together. We want it to look beautiful. Only use the black pens to draw. Don't use your pencils. You can sketch it with a pencil first if you want to, but don't use it as your final thing. Don't use the Sharpies. Don't use multicolored Sharpies. Only use the black pen. Now, you got a choice. There are two ways to go with this. Some people like to do the watercolor first and then do the black pen on top. Some people like to do the black pen first and draw the map and then do the watercolor behind it. Either way is great, okay? Or even a combination of both. There's not one right way to do it. A couple of really important visual arts ideas. And I got these from a first grade teacher who led this workshop, and I loved it. One is, are you ready? Everybody with me? One really important idea is watercolor is painting with the water, not painting with the paint. So you don't want to dig your brush into the paint and try to get the paint. You want to just use enough paint to color the water, and you're painting with the water. That's a really important idea. Pushing into the paint with the brush will only destroy your brush, okay? So just gently take some color, water, and paint with the water. When you're painting, have you ever heard of pinky kickstands? Do you know this? Pinky kickstand. Your pinky's the kickstand. You put it here, and this is one way to do it, and paint like this. See this? Pinky kickstand. Use your pinky to, this is good for kids, so you're not just kind of this, right? Or you can use an arm like this and do it on your arm. See that? Yeah? Okay. The other thing is you don't want to smash your brush into anything. Be really delicate with the brush. What the teacher always says is no bad hair days, okay? Because smashing a brush will create a bad hair brush. You won't be able to use it anymore. So very delicately using your brush. Let me see if there's anything else I need to tell you. You're going to have a towel. If you make a mistake, you can dab the water away with a towel or like a little napkin, right? So if you use too much or it's not going the right way, you can take your napkin and you can dab your paper and take the water off of it. Okay? Anything else I need to tell you? Oh, to get extra water, if you feel like you have too much water on your brush, drag it along the edge of the cup. You know what this does? Splatters it on your clothes and on your neighbors, all right? So know if you need to get extra water off, just on the edge of the cup. And if you want to let your paint kind of go with the flow, like if you want to cover a whole area, you can also wet your paper first. You can put the water on the paper first and then add color to it and experiment with that, okay? And that's called a wash. And that's all. Okay? You can also layer. You can do a little bit of paint, let it dry a little bit, and then come back and do the color more if you want it deeper, or if you want to add another color, you can layer it. So the idea is you're going to draw a map in any way you want of your favorite place, right? The place you selected, using the pen and watercolor. Watercolor first and then pen, or pen and watercolor. Questions? You ready to go? We got a lot of brushes. So you got the little brush that comes with it, and we've got bigger brushes that we'll get at the table. If you don't have a bigger brush, you can go to another table and get one, okay? All right, everybody, have fun.